And this piece of development coming in from Russia that's been dominating headlines the world over. President Vladimir Putin has now signed a law that allows Russia's national legislation to take precedence over international treaties and rulings from international bodies in cases when they conflict with the Russian constitution. However, the Kremlin has assured that all Russia's obligations under international treaties remain in force, reiterating Moscow's commitment to international law. But the legislation has caused concern among rights advocates in Russia. Hundreds of Russians appeal to the European Court of Human Rights, seeking justice every year. Justice that they say they have been denied at home. Vladimir Putin first proposed the reform during his State of the Nation address in January. It was one of the many legal and constitutional amendments adopted this year. Others including allowing Putin to run again for president 2 more times when his term ends in 2024. And joining us live this minute is Stuart Smith from Moscow. Stuart, this is a change that has far-reaching implications for the people on the ground. Give us a sense of what the rights advocates have been saying. It's also a very hollow assurance coming in from Moscow, where it says that its obligations to international law remain intact when we have this law taking shape, which will mean that the Russian constitution will be holding precedence over these international treaties and rulings.
Yeah, on the face of it, this law shouldn't change anything. It's meant to just firmly establish that Russian law does trump international law. But there are cases where, especially with human rights cases, where Russian law does come into conflict with international law. And indeed, many hundreds, if not thousands in some years, of people go to Russia, go to the European Court of Human Rights with claims against the Russian state for human rights abuses. The European Court of Human Rights is the last step for people in Russia to be able to get justice if they believe the Russian state has not served justice in the right way. This law makes clear that if there is any disagreement, then it's Russia that comes first, and judges will not have to take into account any international decision if it negatively impacts what the Russian law says must happen. And so human rights leaders and human rights groups are understandably worried, because this is the last backstop for any claim that Russia has overstepped its authority, and now it could mean that the European Court of Human Rights has less jurisdiction. But indeed, Russia is saying it's committed to international law. It will uphold its international obligations. And so how this will move in practice is yet to be seen.
What is the way forward now? Do we see this reform taking shape over the next few months? What is the process going to look like?
Well, it will happen quickly. This year has been a big year for constitutional changes within Russia. Like you said, laws relating to territorial integrity. The big one that most people know of is, of course, President Vladimir Putin being able to extend his term for a further 20 years. Big changes coming along, and all of them to try and create a safe space for President Putin should he ever need to step down. That's not the official line, but that is what most analysts agree Putin is doing here, creating all these constitutional reforms to make Russia a place where Putin can continue to either stay in power, or should he need to step down, he'll be safe in doing so. So what happens next? Well, Russia's currently obliged with many international treaties to follow their direction should there be an international dispute. Whether Russia is selective in where it chooses to align itself with international laws, some issues it may do so, some issues it may not. But particularly of relevance could also be territorial disputes, like Crimea, which used to be part of the Ukraine until it was annexed by Russia, or the islands off the coast of Japan, again, more disputed territory. This ruling could not only affect human rights cases, but also affect territorial claims.
Stuart Smith, thanks very much for getting us a better sense of what this means for the people of Russia. We're leaving it there for the moment. On to Hong Kong now, where the authorities are all set to ban dining in restaurants post 6 p.m.